It used to be that building a successful career was basically exactly like climbing a very rigid physical ladder.
Oh, totally. A very, very long ladder.
Right. I mean, you get the right degree, you put on the right suit, you hand over your perfectly formatted black and white PDF resume, and then you just wait.
Yeah, you just wait for a gatekeeper to notice you.
Exactly. You wait for a boss or like an editor, a casting director, whoever, to essentially grant you permission to take that next step up.
Because the gatekeepers really held all the keys back then. I mean, it was a completely linear progression.
Right.
You simply couldn't reach a mass audience or, build a scalable business without millions of dollars in corporate advertising or like the explicit blessing of a major network.
Yeah, the barriers to entry were literally designed to keep people out. But then you look at the digital landscape today, and suddenly that old wooden ladder is just gone.
Completely vaporized.
Vaporized. The gatekeepers have packed up and left the building entirely. We are operating in an economic landscape where, frankly, the fundamental rules of gravity have just completely changed.
They really have.
And that actually brings us to the mission of today's deep dive. We are talking directly to you out there listening about unlocking the blueprint to transforming your deepest, geekiest obsession into a legacy-building, highly profitable business.
Yeah, and to understand the architecture of this new sort of permissionless economy, we are drawing from a really foundational text in this space.
Oh, a classic.
Right, it's excerpts from the book Crush It by Gary Vaynerchuk. And, looking at this material now, it's crucial to understand it, not as like a guide to making a quick buck online.
No, definitely not.
But as a historical map of a fundamental, permanent macroeconomic shift in how society and attention and business actually operate.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if the old gatekeepers and the old ladder are totally gone, what actually replaces them?
Yeah, it is the big question.
Right. To figure that out, I think we have to look at the origins of the author, because his entire philosophy is completely rooted in his personal DNA. And honestly, a rather gritty life story.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're talking about his family immigrating from Belarus to Queens, New York in 1978.
Yeah, and the early years were just incredibly tough.
They really were. They lived in this tiny studio apartment. His grandmother was actually mugged within like 6 weeks of arriving in America.
Oh, wow, that is awful.
Right. And his dad's promised construction job just evaporated because the economy was tanking at the time.
Which, that kind of environment creates a very specific psychological imprint.
It forged a zero entitlement mindset. Nobody was coming to save them, so the hustle started purely out of necessity.
Yeah, he talks about his parents literally walking miles to and from a Kmart just to buy him 2 Star Wars action figures for his 6th birthday. Just because money was that tight.
And he wasn't just observing that struggle, he was like metabolizing it.
Yeah, completely. I mean, by the time he was 8 years old, he was running 7 different lemonade stands simultaneously, riding around on his big wheel collecting the cash.
The visual of that is amazing.
It is. He even cut flowers out of a neighbor's yard and sold them right back to her.
That is bold. But what's fascinating here is the pivotal aha moment he had as a teenager, because it perfectly illustrates how markets actually work.
Oh, the baseball cards?
Yes, the baseball cards. He discovered the Beckett Baseball Card Price Guide, and suddenly he realized that these simple pieces of printed cardboard had an actual fluctuating market value.
Which blew his mind.
Right, so he borrowed $1,000 from his notoriously strict father and went to a mall card show. And the promoter asked for a massive $150 fee just to rent a single table.
Which is a fortune for a kid.
Exactly. His brain screamed no, but his gut recognized an opportunity, so he paid it.
But he didn't just sit behind that $150 table waiting for customers, right? Like, he actually walked the floor, did instant market research, and repriced all his cards to ruthlessly beat the competition.
Yeah, he was dynamic about it.
And he also noticed this really weird psychological quirk. If a set of cards wasn't listed in the Beckett Guide, pessimists assumed they were worthless.
But he was a relentless optimist.
Exactly. He decided they were valuable, and he effectively created a market for them through sheer storytelling. He learned early on that scarcity, combined with a compelling narrative, breeds intense desire.
And that exact same DNA drove his strategy when he was pulled into his father's retail business, Shoppers Discount Liquors.
Yeah, he went from bagging ice for $2 an hour to reading Wine Spectator behind the register.
Which is where he noticed a huge behavioral pattern. Liquor buyers walked in knowing exactly what they wanted. a specific brand of vodka or whiskey.
Right, they grab it and go.
But wine buyers were entirely lost. They just stared at the shelves, totally intimidated. They needed a guide. They needed a story.
And by providing that education and that narrative, he eventually helped scale his dad's business from $4 million to $50 million between 1998 and 2005.
Which is just incredible growth.
It really is. And it establishes the core foundation of his entire philosophy. It strips away all the corporate jargon and boils down to 3 absolute rules.
Right. Number 1, love your family. Number 2, work super hard. And number 3, live your passion.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting and maybe a bit hard to believe for you listening right now. Is passion really enough to build an entire business model around?
It's the ultimate question, isn't it?
I mean, what if your passion is something completely unglamorous? What if you were obsessed with, I don't know, worms? Can you honestly build an empire on worms?
Well, the author actually uses that exact absurd example to prove his point. And the answer is definitively yes.
Wait, really?
Yes. If you love fishing and are inexplicably obsessed with worms, you can absolutely build a massive, lucrative platform.
How does that even work?
Here's the underlying mechanism. Passion is a filter. If you start creating hyper-specific content about, say, how a certain type of worm catches 80% more bass, your passion becomes highly contagious.
Because fishermen care about catching bass.
Exactly. You aggregate a highly engaged, highly targeted niche audience. And someone with a passion for business development will eventually spot your worm expertise. They partner with you.
Oh, I see.
Because you own the attention of every single fisherman online. So you attract advertisers like Nike or a massive fishing lure company, and together you build $1 million business. In a world of infinite information, specialized passion is basically priceless.
Okay, that makes sense. Because that passion can be monetized in virtually any niche now. The vehicle you use to deliver it has fundamentally changed. The corporate ladder is sinking, and the new life raft is the personal brand.
Yeah, the source material highlights a really critical turning point for the author regarding this. It's his 30th birthday, he's driving down the New Jersey Turnpike, and he's running this highly successful multi-million-dollar wine business.
But he realizes he has a ceiling.
Right, he needs to go bigger. So he decides to launch a video blog called Wine Library TV, which he nicknamed The Thunder Show.
I love that name.
It's great. But the crucial distinction here is his intent. He didn't launch it to sell cases of wine that specific day. He launched it to build brand equity.
And that is such a massive shift in thinking. He wasn't tracking daily sales conversions from the videos. He was tracking engagement and trust.
Which takes time to build.
Totally. And to build that trust, radical authenticity became his ultimate filter. I mean, the wine industry at the time was notoriously stuffy and elitist.
Very intimidating for the average person.
Right. Experts were describing wines using these poetic terms like crushed rose petals and silk. But he tasted the same wine and told his audience it tasted like Big League Chew bubblegum. Or like a whatchamacallit candy bar.
Which people can actually relate to.
Exactly. He even kept a New York Jets spit bucket right on his desk. He maintained his loud, hyper, unfiltered New York persona because he understood that faking a polished corporate image, even for a second, creates friction. It loses the audience's trust.
Because when you fake your persona, you have to remember your lies. Authenticity scales effortlessly because you were literally just being yourself.
It's so much easier.
It is. And this kind of radical transparency is exactly what rendered the traditional PDF resume obsolete.
Thank goodness for that.
Right. Your resume is no longer a static piece of paper sitting in a filing cabinet. It is your living, breathing, real-time online content.
So every post, every video, every piece of analysis you publish is a public demonstration of your expertise and your character. Let's look at the real estate agent example from the text because it perfectly illustrates the psychology behind this.
Oh, this is the great example.
Imagine an agent trying to sell an incredibly ugly house. Like, it has red shag carpet, woodland creature chandeliers. It's just a total disaster.
A real nightmare property.
Right. The traditional old school sales instinct is to spin it as a charming fixer-upper. But the author argues that a true personal brand would post a video walking through the house, pointing directly at the ugly carpet, and flat out telling buyers, this place needs serious work. Do not pay the $360,000 asking price. Offer $275,000.
Which absolutely terrifies traditional salespeople.
Totally terrifies.
They just think, oh no, I'll lose the immediate commission. What they fail to realize is the long-term play. By being brutally honest, They have just hacked the trust metric.
They become the most trusted real estate agent in town.
Exactly. People will flock to them for the next 20 years because they know they will never be sold garbage. Honesty sacrifices the short-term transaction to secure the long-term lifetime value of the customer. Trust is the actual currency of the new economy.
So what does this all mean for you listening? It's like being at a cocktail party. You wouldn't just walk into a room full of strangers, shove a printed resume in their faces and scream, "Hire me," or "Buy my house."
I mean, you'd be asked to leave.
You would. You would act like a human being, you'd naturally chat, share a funny story about your dog, debate the latest hockey game. You let people get to know you. Your personal brand is literally just your cocktail party persona scaled up for the entire internet.
And this macro shift is dismantling every single industry that relies on human interaction.
Give me an example.
Take journalism, for example. The old media platforms like newspapers and traditional broadcast networks, they are sinking because ad revenue and attention have completely decentralized online.
So what do the journalists do?
The author argues that talented journalists shouldn't go down with the ship, clinging to a shrinking corporate salary. They should leverage their personal brand equity, cut out the middleman, and build democratic online news models.
Oh, wow.
Imagine a group of top journalists taking equity in a lean digital startup instead of taking a paycheck from a dying conglomerate. Direct personal connection with the audience entirely replaces corporate facelessness.
Okay, so once you establish what your authentic personal brand is, you desperately need to know where to put it. Because having a great personality and deep expertise means absolutely nothing if you're standing alone in a dark, empty room.
You need an audience.
You do. You need lures, lassos, and a digital toolbox. But we need to pause here and address something critical about the source material. The book was published in 2009.
Yes, that is a very important caveat.
It drops names like Vidler, Ping.fm, TubeMogul, and mentions buying a $150 flip cam. It advises setting up Facebook fan pages because personal profiles cap out at 5,000 friends.
Yeah, it's essentially reading the ancient history of the creator economy.
It really is.
In 2026, those specific tools sound completely archaic. But this is exactly why the text is foundational. The technologies have completely changed, but the architectural principles are identical.
Right, like Ping.fm was just an early tool for multi-platform syndication, something algorithms basically do natively now.
And a flip cam was just the precursor to the 4K studio you currently have in your pocket. The strategy remains pristine. You start with two pillars: product, which is your passion, plus your expertise, and content.
And before you even begin building, you should apply the 50 blog topic test. Can you easily, like off the top of your head, brainstorm 50 distinct, interesting topics to create content about?
And if you can't,
If you struggle to hit 50, you don't have a business, you just have a passing hobby.
that's a really good project. Assuming you pass that test, you must match your medium to your DNA.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if you are deeply charismatic, you use video. If you have a commanding voice but are maybe a bit camera shy, you build an audio platform. If you're a brilliant, meticulous thinker, you dominate the written word.
Play to your strengths.
Exactly. But crucially, you must set up a home base, which means actually buying your own domain name. If you're an accountant, you buy bobthebudgetman.com.
Because that is your own real estate.
Right. You cannot build your entire empire solely on rented land at the total mercy of a social media algorithm that could literally change overnight.
Once that home base is established, you use your content as a lure to organically bring people in, but you also use it as a lasso.
A lasso. I like that visual.
Yeah. That means going out into the wider digital ecosystem and leaving incredibly thoughtful, expert comments on other people's platforms to rope them back to your site.
It's active, not passive.
Exactly. You also have to understand the psychological difference between a call to action and a share function. A call to action like subscribe or buy is asking the audience for a deep commitment. A share function empowers them to effortlessly do your marketing for you.
That is a subtle but huge difference. But the perennial question for anyone starting out is, how do you find the people who actually care about your weird, hyper-specific niche? Are you just yelling into the void?
It definitely feels like that at first.
It does. But the author points to the sheer power of search. He uses this brilliant historical example with the brand Advil on early Twitter.
Oh, the headache example.
Yes, imagine you manage social media for Advil. You go to a search bar and type in the word headache. Instantly, you see a real-time stream of people currently experiencing pain.
Right.
You spot a user named Jillian, who posts that she has a terrible headache and wants a sledgehammer to end it.
Now, normally a brand would just blast an ad at her, but you don't spam her with a corporate link to buy pills. You politely reach out via a direct message saying, "Hey Jillian, I work for Advil, so sorry about your headache. Can I send you a free bottle?"
Which completely flips traditional advertising on its head. Instead of shouting a message at millions of people hoping one person has a headache, you listen first.
You find the exact person in need.
And you offer direct, unprompted value. You turn a simple search query into the most intimate, surprising brand experience that consumer has ever had.
It's incredible. But here is the massive catch. Today, these digital tools are completely free, or practically free. They are accessible to everyone on Earth with a smartphone.
That's true.
So, if the playing field is a 100% level, and everyone has the exact same microphone, how do you actually beat the competition?
Well, the author says the answer lies entirely in execution. He calls it the trifecta: authenticity, hustle, and patience.
Let's look closely at hustle, because hustle is the great equalizer in a permissionless economy.
It really is.
It does not mean working for 3 hours, checking your email, and then going to play video games. Hustle means bleeding out of your eyeballs at your computer screen until 3 in the morning every single night.
It is the raw, unglamorous sweat equity required when you have $0 in marketing budget.
So it's exactly like going to the gym. People go out and buy the $300 running shoes and the fancy insulated water bottle. They run on the treadmill twice, and then they loudly complain when they don't have a six-pack.
That happens all the time.
The author is saying, forget the expensive shoes, forget the lighting equipment. Run barefoot if you have to, but you better be willing to put in the absolute maximum effort every single day for years.
Which brings us to patience, the third piece of the trifecta. And honestly, this is the exact point where 99% of people fail.
Oh, absolutely.
The author calls it the secret sauce. We live in a culture expecting instant virality. People start a platform, work hard for 6 weeks, see 0 results, and they just quit.
6 weeks is nothing.
It's nothing. Building a legacy is a marathon. It took the author 18 solid months of relentlessly filming Wine Library TV every single day before he got booked on Late Night with Conan O'Brien.
Wow, 18 months.
And his patience started way before the camera ever turned on. He spent years systematically educating his palate, literally tasting starfruit, raw goji berries, dirt, and figuring out what a sweaty sock actually smelled like.
A sweaty sock.
Yes, long before he was legally allowed to drink the wine he was selling.
That is dedication. And that patience aggressively applies to how you handle your money, too. Reinvesting in the business is paramount. When he was 22 years old, he was running a $10 million business, but he deliberately only paid himself a salary of $27,000 a year.
He was starving himself of capital to feed the growth of the enterprise. You have to delay personal gratification to build a lasting structural foundation.
You can't just buy a sports car the second you make $1.
Exactly. And this also highlights a major trap for new creators: analytics.
Oh man, analytics will crush your soul.
They will. The author warns you not to get fixated on the raw quantitative data. Let's say you check your dashboard and you only have 7 viewers on a piece of content. The data says you are failing.
Which is super discouraging.
But what if one of those 7 viewers happens to be a producer for a major national television network? Like the Today Show.
You cannot know that from a simple metric.
You can't. You have to value qualitative connection over quantitative data in the early days.
And all of that patient 3 a.m. hustle has to be directed somewhere specific. You don't just publish your content and go to sleep. You enter what the author calls trench warfare.
I love that term.
It's so accurate. You have to manually, painstakingly build the audience, person by person. You are digging your internet trench. That means searching out every single mention of your topic online and actively joining the conversation.
We see this with the Jared Mons example in the text. He was a retired pro soccer player who decided to run an online soccer academy.
What did he do?
His strategy wasn't running expensive ads. It was staying up until 3 in the morning to leave detailed, thoughtful comments on soccer blogs.
Just grinding it out.
Yes, and crucially, he wasn't spamming links to his business. He was just engaging in genuine, high-level conversation about the sport he loved.
Because people can smell spam a mile away.
Oh, instantly. Or look at Natasha Westcoat. She's an artist who started live streaming her actual painting process from her studio. And this was years before platforms like Twitch or TikTok Live made this standard practice.
She was way ahead of the curve.
By letting people into her world live, she dissolved the barrier between creator and consumer, driving direct sales right then and there.
It's all about the power of one. You have to deeply value every single individual person who takes the time out of their life to care about your content. The author actually says the absolute best marketing strategy ever invented is one simple word: care.
Care.
Yeah. But I want to push back on this a little bit because, frankly, it sounds exhausting. You're telling me I have to manually leave thoughtful comments on dozens of random blogs every single night just to get a handful of people to notice me? How does that actually scale?
Well, the truth is it doesn't scale. And that is exactly why it works.
Oh, interesting.
It is exhausting, but only if you view it as a corporate chore. Think of it this way. It is the exact same dynamic as moving to a new physical neighborhood and spending your evenings shaking hands over the fence, or working a room in a massive industry conference.
So it's just networking, but online.
Exactly. It is version 2.0 of traditional word of mouth. If you are genuinely intensely passionate about your topic, discussing it with other enthusiasts for 8 hours a night won't feel like grueling labor.
It will just feel like hanging out in your favorite community.
Right. Care works precisely because it requires a level of human effort that large corporations simply cannot automate.
So to summarize all of this, the internet has fundamentally erased the gatekeepers. With nothing more than the smartphone already in your pocket and an obsessive, borderline crazy passion, you can actually out-hustle multi-million-dollar corporation.
You really can.
But the toll it takes is real. It requires radical transparency, grueling late nights, a willingness to bypass short-term profits for long-term trust, and a genuine, deep desire to care about your community.
As we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a final thought that builds on this entire theme of the shifting economy.
Okay, let's hear it.
We've talked extensively about how the digital landscape sank traditional gatekeepers and allowed individuals to build their own empires.
Right.
But take that to its logical conclusion. As everyone becomes their own hyper-niche, heavily monetized personal brand, what happens to the concept of a company altogether?
Oh.
Are we moving toward a future where traditional corporations dissolve completely, replaced by a massive interconnected web of individual, passionate experts trading value directly with each other?
That is wild to think about.
The architecture of how humans organize to do business is fundamentally fracturing. It's something profound to mull over as you decide what your own legacy will be in this new economy.
So as you look out at the landscape today, remember, the ladder is gone. The rungs you thought you had to carefully climb have vanished. In their place is an empty stage, and the absolute best tools in human history to build your own megaphone are sitting right in front of you, waiting to be used.
The only question left is, how badly do you want to be heard?
Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us today. We'll catch you next time.